Alright guys, welcome back to another video on MMA.I. Today we're joined once again by Oscar, my right hand man on these podcasts. And today we're going to be talking about UFC 257, a recap, a very surprising night all around, top to bottom. Some good fights on the card. Started off with Emil Barzi versus Zomagulov, a really good fight to start off, and then we ended it off with one of the most surprising shocks maybe of 2021. Dustin Poirier knocking out Conor McGregor in the first round, second round. The second round, and yeah, an absolutely amazing fight. Oscar, what do you give us a brief description of the night and how it went?
Yeah, well, that fight, I will never forget it because it was the first time we saw Conor McGregor being finished by strikes. Previous to that, his only losses in the UFC were by submission to Khabib and Nate Diaz, and those were big shockers as well. But to see a guy lose by strikes is way different because we can relate to it more. We see a guy just get beat down in that manner. And, Conor McGregor has been finished by strikes in boxing, but to get knocked down like that against someone like Dustin Poirier, it really surprised me. I don't think anybody really called that with much confidence. I do know that Dan Hardy is a very smart man. He was able to call that. He said that those calf kicks would be instrumental in Dustin Poirier's game plan because they would completely nullify the threat of Connor's left hand and it would lead him to victory. And he was exactly right. That's exactly what happened. He got destroyed by those leg kicks. I'm not too sure if he was tired, but I honestly didn't feel like Connor was on his complete A game that night. I don't feel like he was at 100%. I didn't feel the same energy watching that as I did watching his performance against Eddie Alvarez, which was what I was expecting to see from him that night. I didn't see the same Connor in the octagon. I didn't even see the same Connor in the octagon that I saw against Cowboy. I didn't feel like the same enthusiasm was there from him. But Dustin Poirier receives all the credit for me. I did what I could to show him the respect I could last time because I was thinking he was going to get put down and I was saying it on his birthday. But this time I really mean it, man. People were disrespecting him way too much heading into there. They said he had no real path to victory. They thought he could only get it done by decision, and he shut them all up with this huge TKO victory. It's historic. I was completely shocked. I had nothing to say when Connor got put down. I haven't felt that shocked during a knockout in a while. How about you?
I agree with you. It was weird to see McGregor get knocked out because we've never seen McGregor, as you said there before. He's only ever been finished, and when he's been finished, it's submission, Nate Diaz or Khabib. But when McGregor got knocked out against Dustin Poirier, it was a sense of shock and thinking, wow, McGregor just got beat at his own game. Like McGregor's known for knocking people out and out cold and TKOing them, and McGregor just got TKO'd. That's a really bad look for McGregor. And where does he go from here? It's a tough question for him himself. He needs to sit back and really evaluate. What has he done wrong? Where does he need to put his head? I think he needs to go back to what got him here. I think he needs to get back to SBG, put himself back into the sticks, make him look like he was poor again, and say now he's got all that money, all that fame. I feel like he isn't hungry anymore. He needs that. He needs to go back to when he was on welfare in Ireland, on welfare. He needs to go back to that mindset and thinking, actually, I need to pay. I need to win this fight for my kids, for my family, to get food in their mouths, to help them financially. But it's tough to do that because he's got 100 mil in his bank. It's tough to say I'm going to go do that, but then when he goes look at his bank account, he's got 110 million sat there, 120 whatever million he's got in that bank. Incredible. So I see a lack of desire from Conor McGregor, and a lack of hungriness. I don't feel like it's not there no more. A guy who's done it in his career. He's been there. He's beat Nate Diaz. Fought against Khabib, beat Jose Aldo, beat Eddie Alvarez, a champ. This guy's done everything in MMA. He made what MMA is today, and one of the biggest sports in the world at the moment. And we can't thank obviously Conor McGregor enough for what he's done for the sport. He gave me light to all of these, up and coming stars that were fighting on his card. And if Conor McGregor was fighting on the card, I was going to watch it, and I was going to see these rising upcoming stars fighting on the same card. So he gave everyone a light, a shine to produce what they can on that card. But as of McGregor, if he does fight again, I would like to see maybe an RDA or a Diaz trilogy. I think them two will make the most sense for him. But it's a tough spot. If he loses his next one, it could be he could be a gunner, in my opinion. What about you?
Yeah, well, right now he wants that trilogy with Dustin Poirier. It's a real possibility. Dustin Poirier can probably call his shot at this point. And
Hmm.
does he not want another red penny night? Does he not want another big payday? I would have to guess not. I suppose he wants another big payday.
Hmm.
But he said he was open to it. I don't know. I personally believe that the next man to challenge for the belt should be Charles Oliveira in a fight win streak.
Hmm.
A dominant performance over Tony Ferguson, who was on a 12-fight win streak, beating the best of the best, former interim champion. I believe Charles Oliveira should be that man. How
I,
about you?
I, I agree, absolutely 100%. For the vacant belt, I think the lightweight division at the moment, is kind of on uncertainty. What's happening with it? We don't know where it's going at the moment. I think Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira makes a lot of sense for that vacant belt. I think Habib should probably vacate it soon, so we can get the ball rolling in the division and keep it moving on. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If they do give McGregor the Poirier trilogy, I would be quite angry with it, to be honest, because I feel like that when Dustin Poirier got knocked out to McGregor, he waited 6 years to get his hands on McGregor again. He worked ages. He went on like he had like 9 fights since they fought again in UFC 257. I feel like McGregor's he's got to kind of work to get back to it. Dustin Poirier had to work to get back to the rematch. Why doesn't McGregor have to work to it? Because it's McGregor. Dana White loves McGregor, and he'll probably give him the trilogy. And knowing how MMA works, there'll be a crazy outcome.
Yeah. Let me just repeat a joke I heard on Logan Paul's podcast, Impulsive. He said that they sent an ambulance to the arena after that fight. It was not for Conor McGregor. It was for Dana White because he had a heart attack. You know, he had a lot of plans heading into this. A lot of plans for him. He thought he was going to get that rematch with Habib. He was in that looking for a fight that they did in Abu Dhabi. He was telling Habib, imagine how big your fight with Conor would be. Imagine how much money you'd make.
I know.
He was already he was counting his the chickens before they hatch, that phrase.
Yeah, literally the way Dana White was
That's just
talking. Oh,
not
sorry.
just
Go ahead.
yeah, continue. Yeah, all right. Well, Dana was expecting Conor to win. Let's
Yeah.
admit it. He's a promoter. He's supposed to convince you that Dustin can win, but he really, in my mind, I don't think Dana expected that from Dustin. He saw that first fight. He was kind of expecting a similar thing, and so was I. I can't blame the man. So, a lot of money was on the line in that big rematch, and I don't think we'll ever see it because I feel like Connor's stock did go down that night, but let's not forget he did sell the third most pay-per-views in UFC history, so he's still a big star. And I say get Connor in there with Rafael dos Anjos, the man he was once set to fight. He even had a press conference with them, so you don't even have to promote it as much. And he was able to Dos Anjos was able to compete at welterweight as well. So if Connor feels like the lightweight frame is not the best for him, they can always do it at lightweight. I mean at 170 pounds. Do you think Connor should fight Dos Anjos, or should it be a Nate Diaz trilogy?
Yeah, with Nate Diaz as well, there's been rumored that he's coming back down to 155 pounds. So if Diaz comes down to 155 pounds, I feel like him McGregor Diaz trilogy, that makes a lot of sense because they've had the first two. It's 1-1 split, and it's a win that McGregor can get. If you know what I mean. It's a very winnable fight for McGregor, and it's not no disrespect to Diaz, how good he is, but it's a fight that McGregor can kind of lead the dance in that fight. We've seen it in the second fight where he countered him. And in the first fight, obviously, he got finished via the rear naked choke. But yeah, this is a fight that I feel like is really winnable for McGregor, and that's the fight that I'd like to see next. But if we're talking about, if it's not Diaz, it's got to be RDA in my opinion. And RDA, and I don't want him to get that Dustin Poirier trilogy. I think Dustin Poirier is on a new wavelength at the moment. You know, he needs to go for that belt of VR against Charles Oliveira or Gaethje or Chandler, whoever it is. He needs that shot of the vacant belt, and I feel like McGregor's got to work to get that trilogy back if he wants it.
Yeah. Well, Michael Chandler certainly put himself in a place to possibly fight for that belt, according to Dana White. What do you think about that fight between Dan Hooker and Michael Chandler? Because that was a real shocker for me.
Oh man, I thought Dan Hooker, man, the Dan Hooker could take some shots. If you look at his recent fights, that man can take a lot of shots. And you look at his last fight against Dustin Poirier, he took a lot of shots against Dustin Poirier, and he was hurt a lot in that fight. But you know, his durability is really good. And then Michael Chandler just goes in there and put someone in his butt within what was it, 2 minutes and 30 seconds in the first round. Incredible. What a way to introduce yourself to the UFC. I mean, this guy outside the UFC, you know, was known to be one of the best 155 pounders, and he proved it. He came into the UFC that night and he said, you know what, Bellator, you know, we've got some legit 155 pounders and I'm proving it here tonight. And it was absolutely incredible. And the best thing about it is the whole fight week, Bellator were actually promoting Michael Chandler. If you look on their YouTube pages, their social media, they're promoting Michael Chandler. And this is good for Bellator, because this is a little bit of kick in the arse for UFC, saying actually, you know what, Bellator, we do have some good fighters. We do have elite level competition, and Michael Chandler put them on the map definitely with this fight, knocking out Dan Hooker. Absolutely crazy. I really didn't expect it. The way how good he looked as well. I feel like Dan Hooker looked a little bit off as well. I feel like he wasn't all there, but Michael Chandler looked great, and the way he feints them takedowns, fakes his feet, he fakes his punches, and the way he went to the right to the body, came up high with that left hook, hit him sweet on the chin, absolutely incredible punch, and put him down and finished it off. And and then the backflip. Let's talk about that backflip. The backflip was incredible. Is it better than Gaethje's? What do you reckon?
It's not better than Gaethje's. That one actually really caught me off guard. Gaethje does it after every fight except the one where he beat Tony. That backflip really caught me off guard, and I don't hate it as much as Dana does, but hey, if you can do it, I certainly can't do one. I don't think I'll ever be able to do one. It takes a really athletic person to do one. I know Yoel Romero, Yoel Romero can do it in jeans. I certainly can't do it in in any kind of athletic gear, if you ask me to. But hey, Michael Chandler had the perfect UFC debut, and in my opinion, nobody has ever done it better in their first outing in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Chandler was being disrespected by some people. Once again, I feel like a lot of these picks that were wrong this week were just underestimations of a guy. A lot of people picked against Michael Chandler because they thought Dan Hooker was fighting the better competition. Well, I feel like that'd be an ignorant statement, because Michael Chandler, he may have come from Bellator, but Bellator at the top, they're really elite guys. At the top especially, they have elite guys, and he's got in his hand race in 5 Bellator title fights. So you really can't discredit him for that. And what he did to Dan Hooker was astonishing. Nobody's done that to Dan Hooker before. He may have 10 losses, but nobody's ever put him away in that manner. And that it was just as shocking as the Conor loss to me. Dan Hooker has been very durable in his last couple fights. He absorbed over 100 significant strikes, and he did not go down in any of those fights against Dan Hooker. I mean, Paul Felder, Dustin Poirier, he took everything from those guys, and he kept on swinging. That guy's a real warrior, and it was really shocking.
I agree. The way he landed the punch, the way he finished the fight, and the way he conducted himself after the fight perfectly. And the last thing I said, I was talking about the way Michael Chandler conducts himself in the octagon, how he knocked him out, and how he finished the fight. Absolutely incredible scenes. But then when he got on the mic after the fight, I felt like he was incredible. He's probably one of the best guys we've ever seen get on the mic after a UFC fight. The way he conducted himself after that fight, called out Habib, it was incredible, man. How good was he on the mic that day, Oscar?
I don't think there's a bigger Dade fan out there than me. I've been a childhood fan. I've loved it more than anything else. It was what I really loved before I discovered how great MMA was. And to see him do a promo just like Ric Flair did when he won the WWE Championship in 1992 by eliminating Hulk Hogan with the assistance of Psycho Sid, it was awesome, man. That promo is one of the greatest wrestling promos I can recall. You know, the whole promo by Ric Flair was with a tear in my eye. This is the greatest moment in my life. And Michael Chandler didn't want to be as dramatic, so he left out with the tear in my eye. But he made it pretty close, and it was a nod to DC and Hawani. Those guys have a great podcast over at ESPN, and they were always mentioning how Michael Chandler was he was like a big fish in a small pond,
Hmm.
and he was finally coming over to the big pond, and that was what Ric Flair was back in 1992. He was that big fish going over to the big pond, and it was very comparable. And I really liked how he really gave a nod to those guys with that old school promo. I really like when guys do that. Colby Covington, he he makes it a little annoying, but you know it really promotes a fight well if you do it right, if you pull it off right. It didn't sound too forced, and the people that knew where it came from, they appreciated it, like me.
Exactly, you said there it wasn't too forced. Though it sounded natural when Michael Chandler got on the mic. It sounded absolutely natural, and it probably one of the greatest moments I've ever seen in a post fight interview.
Yeah, some guys they can deliver it in the octagon, but most of the guys can't really deliver it on the mic. That's what really got Conor to where he was, and that was a very memorable moment for Michael Chandler. Not only did he have a flawless performance in the octagon, he did it really well on the mic as well. I hope he continues to do stuff like this. He's a really articulate guy. He knows how to promote fights, but he doesn't go too over the top, and I like that about him. You can tell he's one of the nice guys in the sport, and I do not think that he will get the title shot, even though Dana said it's a possibility. I just feel like Dustin Poirier, Dustin Poirier didn't get a title shot after being Dan Hooker, so why should he?
Yeah,
I say,
yeah, I agree.
yeah, I,
Everything you
I
said
say,
there.
yeah, I say put him in there with Gaethje. Tell me that would be a great fight. The former World Series of Fighting champion is the former Bellator champion. Why not? Why not do that? If you want to talk about great debuts, Gaethje versus Michael Johnson, that was as memorable as it gets. That was a ridiculous fight. That was nonstop action. That fight will bring nonstop action. I think that's what should be next, and that should be the number one contenders fight, if you ask me.
If I'm thinking about that fight between Gaethje and Chandler, oh my god, that even just thinking about it, that's a fire. Them both men are gonna throw some heavy metal, and whoever lands first, that's what it is. Whoever lands
Yeah,
first clean.
basically. Yeah, I would definitely expect a knockout from those two. Both guys have fought Eddie Alvarez and have had fights that just never stop, never stop. So that would be a fight for the ages, and that's what I really want to see, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Michael Chandler, we asked what goes for him. Where's he go next? We both agreed on Justin Gaethje, but on the other hand, Dan Hooker, where do you match him next?
Yeah, I think I believe that Dan Hooker might need to take a little bit of a long layoff. He already had a pretty long layoff, but that was a pretty nasty finish by Chandler. He landed a good six unanswered punches. It was pretty shocking to see Dan Hooker finish like that after being so durable in his last couple of few. But hey, I reckon you put him in there with the winner of Beneil Dariush versus Diego Ferreira on February 6th. Put him in there against the winner of that fight. So, whoever wins that fight will find themselves in the top 10. And I do believe that Dan Hooker is out of the top 5 for sure now after a loss like that. So put him in there with the winner of Ferreira versus Dariush too.
I think Dan Hooker, if I'm correct, is now ranked number 8 in the lightweight division.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, after 2 big losses against Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler, but a win is definitely what he needs right now. An incredible fighter none the right. He's had some great wins under his belt. Gilbert Burns, Paul Felder, controversially. He's had some really good wins in his UFC career. Went on I think a really good win streak before that Dustin Poirier fight. But yeah, he's a good fighter in his own right. But he needs to get that win now, pick up a win. And he's a very likable guy as well. I like him, and hopefully he gets that win. It was quite sad to see him get knocked out, and the way he got knocked out as well. It was an incredible finish from Michael Chandler. Yep, we'll move on to Jessica I versus Joanna Calderwood, where Joanna Calderwood picked up a unanimous decision, and in a fight which is probably not going to go in my memory in my head. When I think about fights, I'm not going to bring this one up. 100% not. It's a good fight, both men, not both. We're both women. I mean,
Women.
Both women. Yeah, landed a lot of shots. Joanna Calderwood was the more busier of the women. She landed 214 of 310, 319 shots, and Jessica I 104 of 218. Joanna Calderwood was just a busy woman in this fight. She was the busy, more accurate, and just more mobile woman. She was on her feet, loose. Using her kicks really well. Her teep kicks was well to the knees. She using her teep to the body. She went to the body a lot, as I said there. She invested in the body quite a lot. And Jessica I, she's not up there with the best. And Joanna Calderwood, kind of proved it this day. 30-27, 30-27, and 28-29. But we'll move on. Joanna Calderwood gets that decision win and moves up in the rankings. Gets back into the win column after dropping a loss to Jennifer Meyer, taking that one on short notice. But she moves on in the division. Not much to really talk about this fight other than Joanna Calderwood was more the busier woman, and she fought the decision win. What's your thoughts on this one? We'll keep this one nice and short.
My picks were way off this card. If you were a betting man, if you followed along with my picks, you lost a lot of money because I was just way off that night. But this one went exactly the way I thought it would. Joanne Calderwood was a kickboxer. She's really good at her Muay Thai is excellent, and that's what she did right here. She did what I expected her to do. She's a better striker. And as you saw, Jessica I made this fight almost unbearable to watch. She only could win by outmuscling her in the clinch, just pinning her against the fence with not really much activity, which that won her a round according to one judge, but she wasn't doing any damage. She was just laying and praying. Just there wasn't much activity from Jessica I, and Calderwood outstruck her. That's about all I have to say.
Yep. That's the story of the fight. Calderwood was the more busy woman, outstruck her, and now pointed to the unanimous decision win. Moving on to the next fight, we had Andrew Sanchez versus Maradov. What a finish this was. This guy on the feet, man, he's no joke. He's really good on the feet, and you can't mess with him. Andrew Sanchez took a lot of shots in this in this fight, and Maradov landed some heavy bombs. But I felt like Sanchez was in the fight. But the third round, he kind of, I feel like it was competitive. He made it competitive. But Maradov was always a step ahead. I feel like his striking was just more crisper, more sharper, and the guy's absolutely incredible on the feet. You don't want to stand with him. And he eventually got the third round finish. Moves on to his win streak at the moment is looking real hot. Hasn't lost. I think he's on an 8-fight win streak, and now he's looking good. 13. He goes 13.
Yes.
13-fight win streak. Incredible. What surprised me is that his takedown defense as well. He stuffed two out of two. He stuffed 2 takedowns in this fight from Sanchez, who's really good on the ground. You've got some good jiu-jitsu, some good wrestling, and that really surprised me. It's good to see him, get kind of tested his takedown defense. And Maradov, man, he's no joke on the striking. This guy's got hands, and that's why. And we should know that because he's backed up by Floyd Mayweather. And this guy is incredible, and I can't wait to see him fight again. What's your thoughts on the Sanchez versus Maradov fight?
looked really good that night.
Yep,
All right.
we'll move on. Yeah, Maradov looked good that night and got the KO win in the third round. To kick off the main card, we started with Marina Rodriguez versus Amanda Ribas. A fight where in the first round I thought Ribas won. You know, she got the fight to the floor, controlled her for 3 minutes and 39 seconds. And then in round 2, she made a weird decision to stay on the feet with a Muay Thai kickboxing specialist, and she paid the price. And you know, she got knocked out with a. It was was it a kick? It was a kick, wasn't it?
No, it was a straight punch. It was just
Oh
it
yes, yes.
was
It
an
was the one
ugly it
two.
was an ugly beating.
It was the 1-2 straight down the pipe. Rodriguez lands clean, drops her, finishes the fight. Ribas is like, "Whoa, what's going on? I'm good." And no, you're not. You're stumbling. You're not good. You know, your legs are not under you. That was a pretty hefty punch that she took. And Mariana Rodriguez, you know, kind of stopped the hype train in that fight. But Amanda Ribas, you know, she's young. She can come back and she can, you know, improve. What are your thoughts on Mariana Rodriguez and on the win?
You know, heading into this fight, Amanda Ribas was a massive favorite. She had a lot of hype behind her, and I picked her because I was buying into the hype. She's really good on the ground, but her striking has a little ways to go. And Marina Rodriguez is a little bigger, and she had a reach advantage in this fight as well. It was just not the night for Ribas, especially when you're gonna try to strike with somebody as good as Marina Rodriguez, who was piecing up Carlos Barca on the feet when it was on the feet. And we saw in the Carlos Barca fight that she could be taken down and controlled, which is why people were picking Ribas, and that's why Ribas was a big favorite here. But she's gotten knocked out before in her career by Polyana Viana. She's been knocked out before, and we just overlook it. You know, we just assume she's gotten better, but she can still be finished on the feet. Her striking has not reached the pinnacle. You know, it's not a finished product yet. She'll come back. She'll be better. And I just think that Marina Rodriguez was being disrespected, like everyone, like all the other underdogs that won. And she should get a big fight, such as a karate hottie, Michelle Waterson. How about you? Do you think that should be the fight for her?
That's a good fight, and it's a very good matchup. And you know, she gets if she does get matched up to Michelle Watson, it's a good name for her. Michelle Watson, you know, she's been around for everyone, and so yeah, that's a really good matchup. I'd like to see Marina Rodriguez take on Michelle Watson next. What about for Amanda Ribas? Where does she go from here?
Yeah, I do believe that over an American top team, they're always improving on their skills. She's training with her former opponent, Paige Van Zant, for her bare knuckle boxing fight, Super Bowl weekend, which is next weekend, actually. And I'm sure she'll be working on her striking. But in the meantime, maybe we go in the direction of maybe Claudia Gadeja. Gadeja is a little bit of a skid. Her striking is not as good. I do believe she should go to flyweight. Those cuts look like they really take a toll on her, and she slows down as the fight progresses. I do believe that their grappling skills would just be canceled out, and it would be on the feet. And I would like to see what she can do against Claudia.
Great matchup, and yet again for Marina Rodriguez, as I said there, she gets Michelle Watson. That would be a good name for her, and Amanda Ribas, that would be a good name for her. You know, Cardi Galea, former title challenger, and she's a veteran, been around the sport ages, and a good win. If she does get the win against Galea, that would be a huge win for her. We'll quickly talk about the
Absolutely.
prelims, if you'd like. Nothing too much. We're not going to go into detail. We'll talk about the little something what happened. So we'll talk with Arman Tigzarian, put on a good performance against Matt Frivola, absolutely dominant performance, and showed their levels to this game. I picked Matt in this fight because I thought Arman missed weight by a lot, and it will kind of affect him in this fight. We might see a big what's the underdog win. I couldn't figure the word
Upset,
there.
upset.
Upset. That's it. A big
Yeah.
upset, upset. But Arman Tizarin, showed his qualities, showed how good he is, and controlled the fight. But yeah, we had some really good prelims. Julia Pena, she got the submission win after losing. I think she was losing the fight. She had to finish the
Yeah,
fight, and she did finish the fight. What's your thoughts on the prelims?
yeah. The prelims, they weren't the most exciting fights. I told you guys there wasn't going to be a lot of finishes. There was not a lot of finishes, and the fights were a little bit of a snoozers, to be honest. I would have paid extra money to watch to just skip over to the last two fights because those fights were just they were really they were really the focus of my attention that night.
Hmm.
But some good performances by some people. I had money on Sarah McMahon, and I was just devastated because Sarah McMahon did what Sarah McMahon does. She's winning the fight. She's in top position. She's controlling her opponent, and then when the third round comes by,
She's
she
tired.
gets a little too overconfident. She
Hmm.
gets tired, and she gets submitted. And that's what Juliana Pena did. I had already told you guys that Pena was not as good as Sarah McMahon. You actually picked Juliana Pena. I'm sure you were sweating bullets in the
Yeah,
early
I,
part of
I,
that,
I
that
had money
fight.
on her as well. In the third round, I was like, she needs to
Yeah,
win. She needs to finish her, and she got it done.
yeah. I wasn't as confident in Juliana Pena's submission skills because she got submitted by Jermaine Durandamy. That shouldn't happen to anyone in the UFC, if you ask me. It's a little alarming when you're getting submitted by a Dutch kickboxer. Well, Sarah McMahon she really let me down that night. I don't feel comfortable betting on her again against most girls, especially at this level and at the age that she's at. There's not it's not too much time to improve. Juliana Pena calling out men and Nunes, that was a little outlandish. It was a little out of left field. I don't think anybody really expected her to get the Amanda fight as a result. Some the commentators try to say, "Oh, cool, call out," because they got to be respectful. We don't have to be respectful over here at MMA Unhinged. We can be honest. That fight would not be competitive in any way. I don't care what the odds are. I would bet on Amanda in that fight. That is a sure win for Amanda. There's nowhere where Pena is better. That would just be a horrendous matchup for Pena. That'd be bad for her health, if you ask me. Just a terrible matchup in every way conceivable. And you were talking about Saryukian. Man, Utman Zaytar is just he's a fool. I don't care what you needed that was in that bag. You compromised the Fight Island bubble. That Fight Island bubble is the UFC's gem for the international fighters. If it's not for that bubble, there's no fights with fighters outside of the US. It almost messed up the whole operation. Could you imagine if a Conor McGregor fight got called off because the guy he brought in had COVID? Could you imagine how big of just a disaster that would be? I'm sure Dana White. I'm sure Dana White was infuriated when he discovered that somebody had gotten inside without their own wristband. Shame on Ahmed Azaitar. I was a big fan of the guy. He was 13-0. He had an insane knockout power. I had even picked him to win. Shame on him. That story is wild. It's going to be one of the biggest MMA mysteries in the future. What was in that bag? I would have to assume it's weight cutting gear or whatever, maybe an IV, something like that. But hey, props to Matt Favola and Amrin Sarukian for staying on that island and taking fights on 24 hours notice, pretty much. Props to those guys. And Sarukian is the real deal. He's the real deal. He got 10 takedowns. Of course, Matt Favola was training for a completely different fighter who's not training for a wrestler of that magnitude. So props to those guys for taking that fight and deciding to be active. But Sarikin is the real deal. Let's talk about Brad Tavares and Shoeface Antonio Carlos Jr. Some fool put 20,000 US dollars on Antonio Carlos Jr. heading into that fight. I thought Carlos Jr. had a real chance. In fact, I put a little bit of money on him because back when he was an underdog, of course, because he actually ended up being the favorite, and he completely he had a bad night. He couldn't take him down. Brett Tavares had unbelievable takedown defense. His sprawl was off the chain. He was able to piece him up. He almost finished him. in that second round, and Antonio Carlos Jr. had no answer when he couldn't get the takedown. Well, what do you think about that fight?
It was a great fight, very competitive, and Brad Tavares looked great. His takedown defense, you said there, he stuffed. Antonio Carlos Jr. tried one. He got one of 12 takedowns. That's incredible. Against a guy as talented and as great on the ground as Antonio Carlos Jr., a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, incredible practitioner, and it was a really good performance for Brad Tavares. Landed a lot of shots on the feet, as you said, almost finished him in round two, and then I think the bell went, and then he got time to recover, and round three it was a really good fight. I think it was 1-1 going into the third, in my opinion, but everyone, the Brad Tavares got. That's probably because I betted on Antonio Carlos Jr. I probably thought he got the first round, but anyway, I think the first round he had some good control against the fence, and I think he took him down in the first round as well, controlled him a little bit, but Tavares got straight back up, and yeah, Brad Tavares won that night, and it was a great performance. His striking looked crisp. Striking looked great, and I'm excited to see where he goes from here. After that loss to Edmund Shabazian, this is a great win for Brad Tavares.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. What else stuck out from the prelims to you? I thought that Roundtree loss was, it was a little bit of a shock as well.
Yeah, I thought Roundtree won. I really did, and that Marcin Prachnio, his striking, I wasn't impressed with it whatsoever. I feel like he's wild. He doesn't pick his shots. I was disappointed in Khalil Roundtree. I feel like he could have done maybe a little bit more in this fight. I feel like he could probably maybe have landed the killer blows, been a bit more active. He only landed 50 of his 149 strikes. Marcin Prachnio landed 105 of his 220. When you look at it like that, you're thinking, whoa. But I feel like Khalil Roundtree needed to be busy, and he wasn't. He really wasn't busy in this fight, and that was the downfall in this fight. How good his Muay Thai is, he just needs to get busy and chop these guys down like he did against Aradanders. When he chopped them down, when he uses his leg kicks, he's unreal. He's incredible. But I didn't really see much of that in this fight. He only started to use his body kicks in round two, and he still wasn't really throwing it. And he just needs to get busier, and more accurate. And it was unfortunate to see him lose, but it was a really weird decision. But who do you reckon got the nod?
I actually do believe that Bracknell won the fight. I thought that Roundtree just wasn't active enough
Mm.
to get the nod. He clearly won that second round. That there's no disputing that. He rocked him bad. I don't know why he didn't follow it up. He didn't chase the finish, and that cost him because his gas tank was atrocious. So was Bracknell's. That third round was hard to watch, if you ask me. It was just very, very sloppy from those two. I felt like this reminded me of that Buckley DeShirko fight because there was a guy on a 3-fight skid going against a knockout artist, and you expected the knockout guy to win, but he didn't. So that was a real shocker for me, and I also had a lot of hopes for Khalil Roundtree winning this, and I think he should just retire at this point. He's not going to make it to the top. He had already retired before. He's coming out of retirement for this, and if you're going to look this bad, some people are saying, "Oh, it's time for Conor to retire." It's time for Khalil Roundtree to retire. That's an affirmative statement for me. There's really not much room for negotiation there with me. How about you?
Yeah, to a certain extent I agree with you. I feel like maybe he can fix a few things, maybe get the right team around him, to lead him, get him more busier. That's all he needs to do. Just get busier with his hands and his kicks, and he'll be a good fighter.
Yeah, I don't think the motivation is there. He had already retired. He's he has a new girlfriend over in Thailand. He seems happy. I don't if he already retired before, I think he can do it again. And if you're not even getting the best results, why even show up? I just feel like he's underperformed so many times. He's unreliable as a better. It's just a little tough for him to be in the UFC at this point. I feel like maybe don't compete at this level because when you're losing to a guy that got knocked out by Sam Alvey, it's a little alarming if you ask me. And talking about guys that might retire, or will retire, or did retire, Nick Lentz against Movsar Evil that was a pretty grueling fight to watch. He was going for that guillotine on countless occasions, and I had a lot of confidence in Movsar winning. So I was sweating bullets when he had that guillotine on him in that first round. And in the second round, he got it again, and you could hear him gurgling. It kind of reminded me of that one tough season one. Was it season one? Yeah, season one, where I think Stephan Bonner got put in a choke by Mike Swick, and he started gurgling because he was choking. Yeah, it reminded me of that. It was kind of funny. But what was not funny is that eye injury on Nick Lentz. That eye injury it was pretty gnarly to see. He said he lost 40% of his vision. He's kind of like the lightweight Michael Bisping that just never made it to the top. He's had an up and down career, and it's come to a close. He has some decent wins, but he just never really got to that status of title contender. He had a trilogy with Charles Oliveira, and he didn't win a single fight. I don't know why they even booked that third fight. Uh, it was a tough career for Nick Lentz, and it was, it's kind of sad to see him just not even have the choice because his eyes in just such a bad shape. But Mosfar, he passed the gatekeeper test against Nick Lentz in this spot, and now he's ready for possibly somebody in the top 15, maybe the winner of Danny and Reinhall.
Nice, good matchups. Oscar always comes in clutch with the matchups. A great way to round it off this video. We talked about Khalil Roundtree, his inactivity on the feet. We talked about Nick Lentz retiring, and started off the night. Emil Albazi gets a unanimous decision win versus Zumagulov. A great fight, a really good fight. I feel like Zumagulov was just looking for that one big kill shot. And Emil Albazi was just, more active, outpointing him with the jab and his strikes. He landed 94 out of 200 strikes. And he looked good that night. He got 2 takedowns as well, and he got that 3 minutes of 38-second control time. And he's looking like a good prospect, a guy that actually fights out of London Shoot Fighters. And when he got on the mic, I was actually quite impressed with his accent. I didn't think he was going to be like I don't know. He sounded kind of British. I was like, whoa, that kind of put me off. That
Yeah.
kind of threw me off guard because I was like, whoa, he's from Iraq. He originates from Sweden. His family is from Sweden, but he sounds British. I was like, what? This one was it was a bit funny, but yeah, a great performance from Emir Albazi to round off the prelims and the whole card. Emir Albazi wins. Nick Lentz loses to Movsar Evilive, then retires. Khalil Roundtree loses to Marcin Prachnio. Julia Pena submits Zara Man after losing the fight, and Brad Tavares returns in spectacular fashion versus Shoeface, and Armin Tingzarian shows his how good he is, and gets a win versus Matt Frivola, a very game Matt Frivola, and Mariano Rodriguez upsets all odds and gets that KO win, beautiful KO win against Amanda Ribas, and Andrew Sanchez loses to KO versus Maradov. Maradov showed his striking prowess and knocked him out. And Joanne Calderwood versus Jessica I, unanimous decision win. Not much to speak about this fight. Calderwood showed a Muay Thai kickboxing background and utilised it very well. And Jessica I kind of stood on the feet and kind of let it all happen. In the co-main event of the evening, we saw Michael Chandler introduce himself to the UFC in one of the most spectacular fashions I've ever seen in my life. But if not, probably maybe the best debut we've ever seen.
Yeah, I have to agree with that.
Yeah, 100%.
Better than Gaethje, better than Anderson Silva.
Yeah, I agree with you. That was probably one of the best debuts I've ever seen in when he arrived to the UFC. And on the mic, that was probably one of the best post-fight interviews I've ever seen. And in the main event of the evening, Dustin Poirier, you paid him fuel. This guy comes in and knocks out Conor McGregor. This is like a happy ending, fairy tale story for Dustin Poirier. And even though I was shocked that McGregor got lost, I was kind of happy for Dustin Poirier to get his revenge. This guy is the most likable guy in MMA. It was so wholesome to see him win, and the way he done it as well was spectacular and very surprising.
Yeah. I also have to mention three things. I learned how to pronounce Sarukian. That's how you pronounce it. Silent T. It's Sarukian. It's like that one Dragon Ball Z game. Sarukian. That's what it is. Second thing, I may have only gotten I think it was 6 of 11. 6 of 11 fights I got correct. But all of them I got the method perfectly correct. And including the one between Sanchez and Muradov. Muradov got the finish in the third round. I was able to predict it correctly. So for those coming at me, hey, your picks were off. Your picks were off. Hey, when I know something's gonna happen, I can even tell you how it's gonna happen. It's just that a cold Oscar. But hey, Mystic Mac did made no appearances on on that night. And also, I have to mention that I did change my picks. I'm a very open minded person. If I hear an argument for something else, I will change my mind. And I heard a couple other podcasts previewing the fights, and I heard that Zumagulov can be definitely taken down and controlled, and that kind of made me nervous, and I switched over to the Albazi side. Thank goodness I watched some more Albazi tape, his fight with Malcolm Gordon, and I said, yeah, let's pick him now because his striking looks it reminds me, like a tiny little wonder boy. He has that karate stance, likes to bounce around. Of course, his striking is not even half as good as Wonder Boy's, but for the flyweight division is not as well developed. He definitely outstrikes some guys, and he really impressed me. That was an even fight until it wasn't. And what I said to myself, oh yeah, Pena and McMahon. I told you guys it was a coin flip fight, and I flipped that coin once again to the McMahon side, and I was almost right until I wasn't. Do you ever change your picks like on
um,
Fight Night? Do you ever just get cold feet?
I do sometimes, yeah. Sometimes when it comes to fight day, I think actually depending on how they look on weigh-ins, I usually sometimes I see when they weigh in, I'm like, oh, he didn't look good. That might have an effect. So, for the Tazarian fight, when he came in like 3 pounds over, I was like, oh god, that could be that could pay a factor in this fight. You know, when the scale and you're missing the weight, it's not a good look, and it's affected fighters in the past. And I felt like Matt Favola could really put the pressure on, maybe gas out. But Tazarian showed some great cardio in the fight. Even when he did miss weight, he looked like he could go 5 rounds, and he looked great. But yeah, I get a lot of cold feet. I always change my picks, always.
Yeah. A weight miss can mean two things. It can mean the fighter just could not finish the weight cut successfully, and they decided it was better to stop cutting weight, or their body just absolutely refused. Or it could be a case where the guy absolutely knows that if they have that advantage, they will take it. And if it's a really close fight or a fight where they may need to grapple and it would hurt their chances of successfully establishing their position, cutting extra weight, it would definitely benefit them to have a couple pounds on them. So it can either mean that a fighter is struggling or he's just trying to get an advantage. And in that Sarukian example, I don't really know which one it was, but it might have been the advantage because he came in there with a grappling heavy approach and he dominated Matt Favola.
Yeah, well, for me and Oscar, this is our UFC 257 recap. This is a very good buy, a pay-per-view to start off the year. Dustin Poirier coming in large, defeating Conor McGregor, knocking him out. Incredible night, and Michael Chandler introducing himself. I'm excited to see how the UFC, introduce them to how they move on with Chandler and Dustin Poirier, see what's next for them. From me and Oscar, a very good bye, and podcast number 15 is now going to be dropped. Thank you very much, and hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.